All right. Good day, everyone. We are here with another show, another excellent panel. We are here with guest, of course, Ehsan Safarnejad. He has been on our show before, an excellent geopolitical analyst, especially in relation to Iran, of course. And we are here with Vanessa Beeley. I would say our sister and often also a co-host, a great journalist on the ground in West Asia. Both of you, welcome back.
Thank
It's a
you.
pleasure
Hello.
to be back.
So we invited you, Ehsan, because of course of everything that is going on in Iran and the region in general. Now, before we go into the specifics, because I guess Peter and Vanessa have also many questions, I would like to ask you if it's possible for you to maybe give us a short update on the situation in Iran, both socially and politically, if that is possible. And also, where do you see the war with Iran going from here? What is your expectation, and what are the signs for that expectation?
Okay, so socially speaking, I think the Iranians are getting ready for a long term conflict, right? You see on the Iranian state media, almost on a daily basis now, and on different programs, uh, you know, uh, actually coaches, military coaches coming to the TV station and start teaching how to operate assault rifles or taking care of them, maintaining them on TV for the average population. And similar things are happening, in different mosques, different social community centers. People are receiving training and people are signing up, registering their name in order to participate or announce their readiness to basically take up arms and defend their countries. So that's on social level, which you mentioned, and it has taken a certain approach because for example, these days you have these couples that have gotten married recently, and both of them have registered to take up arms and defend their country. So you have like these ceremonies that these couples gather, and it's like basically it's sort of like has become like a second chapter of wedding or something like that. Yeah, that's like a ceremony and everything revolved around it. So that's with regard to the cultural aspect. When it comes to economic aspect, the shelves of the supermarkets are filled. There is no shortage of anything in particular that hurt the livelihood of the Iranians. So that's that as well. Iran has decreased its oil production, not because it can't export them. Three oil tankers have entered the Strait of Hormuz and come to Iran. Not come to Iran. It's a little bit tricky, but they have entered the region. They have broken the U.S. blockade. Let me put it that way. Uh, cumulatively, they have the capacity of transferring 1.9 million barrels of oil. So we have the export capacity. It's just that I presume that they're getting ready in order to minimize the damage that might be done to them in the aftermath of U.S. attack on them. Because if you have a very high production rate and then you stop producing anything, it will damage the oil well, right? So it's basically sort of precautionary measures that they are taking in order to get ready for that. But again, when it comes to U.S. naval blockade, there isn't anything specific that hurts Iran's ability to export um, oil. Iran has been using their territorial regions near Pakistan, India, in order to break the U.S. blockade. U.S. recently announced the end of Project Freedom, which was basically this attempt by U.S. naval forces to open the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is open for anyone that coordinates its navigation with Iran. Iran launched this program called Hormuz Safe. Uh, Cargo owners, vessel owners can now reach to Iran and pay the fee in Bitcoin. For now, it's Bitcoin. The legislation that is ought to be passed very soon. Uh, we don't know the details of it, but it will most likely you state that Iran will use the Iranian currency, rial, as the means of payment. So that's with regard to the control over the Strait of Hormuz. There is a sort of shadow war going on in the region. There was an attack on UAE power plant. There was there was this news about two military bases in Iraq. You had the arrest of the Iraqi commander of Kataib Hezbollah by FBI rather than arresting Epstein pedophiles. They have now decided it's a good job to act extrajudicially and arrest officials of different countries. Uh, the Hezbollah in Lebanon is doing its own things, but I think Vanessa is better suited to talk about that. But there's a sort of shadow war going on in the region. We're in that period, but yeah, it's sort of the overall summary of what is happening today on the region. Uh, yeah, that's it.
Vanessa, I muted you for background noise, so you know that. Then you have to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question.
Yeah, I was kind of quite interested because I know apart from the Strait of Hormuz, there's been a lot of chatter about Iran perhaps also requiring licensing agreements for the undersea internet cables from companies like Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, and so on. Which, in my opinion, I would love it to be true because I think as much as Trump is expanding his bluster and demonstrating his frustration with the situation in Iran, Iran just keeps expanding the goalposts, the economical goalposts. And I'd like to sort of talk about that because I find it astounding that a country that for 47 years has been under sanctions but has been able to develop a missile program that has enabled it to withstand an aggression from two nuclear states plus all the other nuclear states that are effectively aiding and abetting this aggression. But at the same time now, even post-war, the state is providing for the population. They are rebuilding at kind of warp speed much of the infrastructure that was destroyed. And now, under pressure from the entire Zionist bloc, they are literally, rather than capitulating, they're actually expanding the terms and saying, okay, if you continue imposing a blockade on the Hormuz Strait, if you continue saying you're going to wipe out our civilization, if you continue increasing the pressure, denying our rights, denying the points that we are putting across for negotiation, then we'll just expand the goalposts. We'll just say, well, it won't only be the Strait of Hormuz, it could also be, we'll target the alternatives to the Strait of Hormuz, right? The Saudi pipeline, East-West pipeline. I can never remember the name of the UAE pipeline that is trying to bypass the Hormuz, etc. I just find this quite extraordinary and very courageous and principled. It's like it's like something we haven't seen for a very long time.
Ehsan, your response?
Oh no, is the internet gone?
I think we have an
Oh
internet
no,
issue
sorry.
here, or he's muted.
Oh, is
He's
he back?
muted.
Yeah. No,
Oh, there you are.
Yeah. Sometimes the like thingy, that the panel, the pop-up panel, uh, gets stuck, and you can't unmute yourself. Yeah, about what she said. Look, these fiber cables, they are very important. People love to undermine certain measures that Iran takes by bringing up other things. Uh, and like you have to understand, there is nothing that you can do which would have this absolute unequivocal that would do or inflict this unrepairable damage to United States and global economy. If they can't impose a blockade, naval blockade on us, then you can only imagine that by extension, we can't do something to them that they wouldn't be able to take some measures to ameliorate that situation, right? So people love to talk about Starlink satellites, right? And the internet that they offer to individuals. It's very important to understand, yes, that is a way for them in order to change the situation a little bit, but it's not a permanent solution. 16 pairs of these cables, uh, more specifically, two Africa types, are capable of transferring something along the line of 400 terabytes worth of data. And that's the bandwidth that they offer you. But a single satellite of Starlink uh, offers you 400 terabits, 8 terabits, uh, each 8 tera, each 8 bits equal 1 byte, right? So 16 pairs of these cables are basically 8 times more powerful, have 8 times the bandwidth that one of these satellites have, and 16 is nothing. There are fiber cables that are much more advanced than one pair of them can transfer 400 terabytes. So just gives you a frame of perspective as how important these fiber cables are. But what Vanessa said actually uh, hinted was hinting at a grander strategy by Iran, which is that many people inside Iran have this perspective that this war is a very good opportunity for us to address certain things. For the longest time, the vessels have been navigating through the Iranian territorial waters, passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Obviously, the vessels pollute the territorial waters of Iran, right? It's not like that they're 100% environmental, environmentally green and they have no pollution. They come to the region, they create certain problems. They are involved in, for example, smuggling of Iranian fuel. There are times that these sort of like small vessels uh, move from the Iranian shores and they go to these vessels, and then through ship to ship connection, they they steal the Iranian oil, the Iranian fuel, and everything like that. So illegal activities, environmental pollution, all of these things were until now sort of ignored by Iran in an act of showing good faith, goodwill to the countries of the region and to the world, right? Meanwhile, you have phosphorus that is being used as an economic mean, a military mean by Turkey. Obviously, we all remember the discussions that the analyst had with regard to Russia-Ukraine war and how phosphorus is so important and everything uh, that was mentioned in that topic. So we are seeing this war as an opportunity to take a step forward rather than backward and start addressing all the things that we were doing as a form of public service to the entire world. Meanwhile, getting sanctioned, being harassed by basically entire world being taken advantage of. And I like to just finish off with this quote with from General Soleimani. He said that there are opportunities embedded in the threats that don't exist in the opportunities themselves. Obviously, this is a sort of like a strange quote and strange saying, but this is the Iranian mentality that, there are opportunities, great opportunities in the threats that are imposed against the country that you can really take advantage of.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of Mao's "Everything under heaven is in chaos. The situation is excellent." It's like when you're in such a terrible position, chaos is an improvement because it allows for a change in that situation. I'm really curious though, because I've been away traveling for work, and I hadn't been so worried during that time because the Trump trip to China hadn't occurred yet. Now it's in the rear view mirror, and so now I'm starting to very much worry again that Trump might start the bombing campaign again, and this time going up the escalation ladder, perhaps hitting even more civilian targets like power plants, etc. Um, what do you think? Do you think that that's not a that that I mean, there's so many questions within this question, so pardon me for the confusion, but how are you thinking about this? Because I just find myself terribly concerned. I had been less concerned about a year ago, thinking that capital is the largest, most influential source of command really in the U.S., and a war on Iran would just be horrendous for the holders of capital. It's bad for business, even if the markets haven't seemed to figure that out just yet. But that doesn't seem to be an impediment anymore. Are you similarly concerned, or do you see a kind of way out? If Trump and the psychos in the U.S. government were a little more rational, I would be able to see ways out. But I just have lost any sense of their rationality, and I'm wondering how you are thinking about this.
So, the way that I view it is different to that of the Iranian government. I like to first make this point very clear because in Iran, they consider most of the politicians they say, "Oh no, it's not Israel attacking us; it's United States, and we're going to respond to United States." But when it comes to political decision making, I sort of view United States as being the vassal state of Israel, in a way. And I have to say that this is not the hill that I'm willing to fight and die on, because someone like Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, with the wealth of knowledge that he had, he actually believed the exact opposite of what I'm saying. So I want your audience to keep in mind that I have that like humility inside myself to understand that what I'm saying isn't really uh, like the concrete thing, or it's not the absolute truth, but it's the way that I see it. It's that Israel has a very, very strong hold on US politics. And obviously, the fact that someone like Thomas Massey might be unseated in United States Congress is something that sounds crazy to me. It's crazy. But that's the case. Like if you asked me 1 year ago, despite my pessimism, I wouldn't think that someone like Massey would be in the current situation. But it just goes to show you that they have a lot of influence. They hold a lot of influence over United States political apparatus. But going back to the root of the question that you asked, uh, the Iranian government, as I mentioned, understands that uh, this is a war that US starts. uh, so in that sense they're fully prepared for a larger war against the country, and that's again why you see some of these uh, sort of training, or like not training, is tutorial courses on the Iranian state media that teach people how to operate an assault rifle. So they they probably assume that something very big is going to happen. This is the way that we see the war. You mentioned targeting, extensive targeting of the Iranian infrastructure. This wasn't something that wasn't absent during the first round of war, the 39 days in which we resisted against the United States. They attacked 750 schools, uh, which were partially or completely damaged. They attacked many hospitals. They attacked this medical center called Pasteur that manufactures uh, basically very advanced pharmaceutical medicines. They attacked bridges, uh, steel production factories, power plants, refineries. So when you discuss an extensive attack on the Iranian infrastructure, because of the fact that the precedent is already set, it's not really that improbable. In fact, that's how the government, the Iranian people view it, that they will probably go for the infrastructure in a more brazen and more severe way. And that's why we are taking measures in order to address those things, right? The Iranian, for example, electricity grid is very complex. And like, I'm not going to give away war plans, but there are things that Iran can do in order to ameliorate that. With regard to what you mentioned as the capital, I was earlier on Vanessa's show and we talked about this extensively, so I don't want to repeat everything that I said. But look, the way that Iran viewed this was, we're going to wage a war of attrition against the United States, right? We can't defeat them by inflicting excessive firepower on them. So rather than doing that, because of the fact that we are the underdog in the war, we are going to bleed them out, right? War of attrition. Now, the thing is that because of the fact that IMF is sort of defined underneath United States financial system, and the Federal Reserve in the United States just keeps printing money, right? As a under the justification of quantitative easing. You can't really, financially speaking, hurt them either, right? Uh, let's remember, Putin basically appointed a person with a finance degree, with an economic degree, as the Minister of War, right? That's how the economic aspect of the war is important. But that's not so much the case for United States. So rather than doing that, rather than focusing on the capital, we try to focus on the physical scarcity of the commodities, right? You can print money, you can print dollar, you can't print oil, you can't print helium that is needed for the semiconductor industry, and that's important for the AI industry. One third of helium is produced on the global stage, is produced by Qatar. Once you remove that actor from the market, how are you going to do that? There are things that United States does in order to temporarily ameliorate the situation. So people love to talk about the fact that, oh, United States is not reliant on the oil that is exported from the Strait of Hormuz. They're they themselves are exporter of oil, right? And they're now venturing into new markets and selling oil to countries that they weren't selling oil before. What they fail to realize is that they are tapping into their strategic reserves. I've seen two graphs. One showed the highest drain in the US strategic reserves on a weekly basis that came out last week, and there was another report that came out just a few days ago talking about the strain on the US strategic petroleum reserves, right? So, just because of the fact that people love to focus on the energy market, more specifically on the petroleum market, Yes, petroleum market is a little bit more tricky, but even that is being affected. And the things that people are seeing online about the alternative narratives and the perspectives that individuals mention when it comes to, oh no, Iran's tactic or countermeasure against United States not being as successful as they wanted it to be, that even if we agree that it's the case with the oil market, ignoring the strategic reserve strain, you can't you can't ignore the fact that urea, erythrea, glycol, sulfur, uh, helium, as I mentioned, and a whole slew of commodities uh, move past the Strait of Hormuz. And, this physical scarcity is not something that you can address. Uh, you can see the sleight of hand, like a magician that does a sleight of the hand tricks, but it's not a permanent solution.
Yeah, I don't know. Just to add to that, I don't know who's saying that the strategy hasn't been working vis-a-vis oil. I just think that the market is full of absolute muppets with lots of money who think that, I mean, just watch Bloomberg, like I have been doing compulsively. These are people who actually think, oh yeah, the war was going to be over in 2 days. The people were going to overthrow the government. And then when that didn't work, this is what they actually believed. And so I think there are enough stupid people with a lot of money in the market that basically are keeping the oil price down. There's probably also manipulation. Like you said, the US can just print money, the world currency at will. But also they can't print oil. So at some point it's going to come to a head if there's no major change. And I don't think it's going to be the way that Trump would want it to be, to put it mildly.
Right. Yeah, no, I think you guys mentioned a couple of really important points, and I'm very happy that you make that distinction, Ehsan, with, for example, losing money or actually physical damage, because you always hear people online and but also in newspapers and other outlets. Oh, this is $1 billion damage. This drone is $30 million damage. And I'm like, that doesn't matter at all when you have the reserve currency. That they have money like water. But the moment you go physical, the moment you damage where it hurts, where it takes 10 years to rebuild a radar station, for example, that's a different story. And I just think that at the moment, I mean, it's a very weird effect this all has on us, because it just seems endless, and you're thinking they keep going and going and going. I mean, Israel's been busy now almost for 3 years. It's in Lebanon, it's everywhere, it keeps going, and you're thinking like it would almost make you think these people are omnipotent. There's nothing you can do to make this crap stop. But I always think until it cracks, until it doesn't. And that's that moment, we are all waiting for. Like, what is it that will physically hurt so much that we are gonna see that crack? Because right now, even what you're saying, Peter, even capital is hardly complaining. I mean, what's going on here? You know what I mean? So I don't know. Sorry, Peter, what?
Just give it time is all I said.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's as if they're, oh man, it's very hard to put under words, but it seems so endless. I'm like, when does it crack? You know what I mean? You wanted to jump in, Vanessa? You're muted.
Right. Sorry, I'm getting used to the Boomcaster system. Yeah, I mean, I think these are 2 points that I kind of wanted to make about the resistance in general. I think generally, and I'm generalizing, there are people that have a very balanced, sensible view of being anti-imperialist and supporting the resistance. But there is this need, and I think it's been to some degree it's a deliberate move to create this mentality in the West that you want everything to be done and dusted, Israel to be annihilated, the US to be completely like reduced to a disheveled economic mess, right? And it's almost a video game mentality with a lot of superiority thrown in there. And it's a mentality which thinks, what is the resistance doing? They don't understand a war of attrition. A war of attrition, Israel, since its establishment, has never felt security. It's never known security. We see the bombing of people in Gaza, the horrendous genocide that's been ongoing even before 1948. Right, it was a creep genocide before then. It's had peaks and troughs, and obviously October the 7th was one of the peaks, and that has been live streamed to everyone in the world since October the 7th. Suddenly, it's forgotten. Right, like no one's really talking about Gaza anymore, even though it's infested with rats, even though people are starving, even though people are being bombed, sniped, droned. Just continued to be killed as part of the final solution, but were manipulated into looking somewhere else. And for me, and I think Peter spoke about this in his article, and I think it's really important, our job in the West, even though I'm here, is as anti-imperialists, our target has to be our government and our government alliances with the unholy creatures that are carrying out these slaughters in Gaza, in West Bank, in Lebanon right now, in Syria, in Iraq, everywhere in the world, Africa, Venezuela. I mean, it's endless. And the Israeli influence is there in Latin America now with the Isaac Accords, with the replacement of left-leaning governments with fascist governments, basically manipulated and put in place by the United States, with Colombia and Brazil coming up, Cuba under pressure, and so on. And this is just my opinion. I'd be really interested to get everyone else's. But I don't think it's our place to say the resistance is doing something wrong, or the resistance isn't behaving in the way that we think it should behave, because we're expecting them to die more, to actually up the rate of aggression against an aggressor. No, I'm not talking about you. No, I'm not. But this is something that's been really bugging me for ages. But it's come to a peak with what happened in Venezuela. And I know I was talking with Ehsan about this also. How people who are really not doing much to overthrow their own regime, they're not sacrificing very much to end the manufacture of the weapons that will be used against Venezuelans if they do take a stand. And when President Maduro, when he was being kidnapped, actually told the Cuban special forces to stand down because he said, no, enough bloodshed. And the government that is now in place and the Chavista movement inside Venezuela is having to maneuver to deal with a new reality and also to negotiate to get the president kept alive, one, not tortured, two, and potentially brought back, or at least taken to a country of safety, right? That's just one aspect of the duress that they're under. And the number of people who I would consider really good, solid activists who are saying, okay, that's it. Delcy Rodriguez has betrayed the whole movement. XYZ is happening, and it's complete judgment. And I'm like, okay, is that our place? Really, is that our place? And I'm asking this question. Or is our place to do something against our own governments, our own regimes? Is that making sense? I mean, I see my job here as exposing what my intelligence, the British intelligence, is doing here in this region for years, right? But isn't that what we should be doing? I don't know. Am I kind of misunderstanding it?
No, my reaction is goddamn motherfucking right. Exactly. I think that's the most important thing. And then the other thing is, like, to get people focused on actually having an impact. It's great, like especially when you're first learning about politics, to learn, to discuss, to experience different perspectives and whatnot, but also always be tethered to something in the real world, which means in an organization. If you're just an individual out there, you're fucking worthless. Sorry, but that's just how the world works. It's a really big world. And if you're not in an organization, you're not having very much of an impact. So join an organization, political party, whatever, even if it's imperfect, because all of them that I know in the US and probably in Britain too are imperfect. But join it anyway and try to make it better, because that's the only way we're going to put a muzzle on our rabid dog ruling classes and their military classes. On the other question of like criticizing, like I am one to very much criticize, usually among friends. If you're like online, I'm kind of a little confused about that. I mean, if it's inconsequential, sure, but I kind of see like why are we doing this other than to educate people? And if we're educating people in the English language, most of the people viewing are in, you know, the US, global north. Then I think the most important thing for us to focus on is getting people again to join organizations and fix their governments. Fix also in the sense of neutering. But when it comes to criticizing, like, yeah, I have that feeling, especially when it comes to Venezuela. There are so many people who speak so confidently, but they know so little. It's like they read one thing, or maybe they saw one video, and then they take this confident position. It's like, bro, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You've never even been to the country. Even if you have been to the country, maybe you've talked to some people and you agree with them, but have you talked to people representing the other side? I mean, early on when it came to the whole Delcy thing, like I completely understand why people just assume that she sold out. I completely understand that. But then, you know, there's another side to that I cannot distinguish because I lack the evidence. And so I'm not going to take a strong position. And I very much distrust people who are outside of Venezuela and take a strong position. If you're in Venezuela, fine. You know, there are Venezuelans who think that she completely sold out. There are Venezuelans who are saying she's walking this tightrope where, you know, what the fuck else is she supposed to do? Just get assassinated and be a saintly corpse? Like, okay. I mean, basically all I'm trying to say is, and then definitely when you said that thing about the resistance, it reminds me of people who were like saying after the 12-day war, you know, oh, Iran shouldn't have stopped. Like they should have kept hitting Israel back. Mearsheimer was saying this, and it's like, you know, it's just annoying because it's like your skin is not on the line. Your loved ones are on the line. And you don't know the most important piece of information that would determine whether or not that's a good idea or not, which is the actual stocks of weapons and your productive capacity. If you don't know that, then shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, I agree with that sentiment very much, and I'll just stop because otherwise I'll get too engaged.
Yeah, I would say that with the depravity of empire, I wouldn't even be surprised if the United States has the children of Delcy Rodriguez in the crosshairs. I mean, what do you want to do? When they say, okay, go ahead, try something, and we have your kids in the crosshair. I mean, the empire is so crazy. I wouldn't see that. I would see that as a very feasible option, to be very honest. But when it comes to criticism, and I will not derail our conversation too much on this. I think this needs a different show. It depends. So I'm also hypercritical to my own country. Everybody knows it. Peter knows it. Vanessa knows it. And I must say, when it comes to international situations where we are influenced not only by our own country but by other countries as well, when I think about, for example, Russia and what it does in West Asia, or for example trade relations of China with Israel, I feel I can criticize that. That's an international effect that we all suffer from, and I think in that case we should be able to criticize that. About domestic policies in Russia or China, no, that's not my place. My place is the Netherlands, and I focus on the Netherlands in that sense, and maybe the United States, because it really influences all of us. Now, to go a bit back to what we were talking about, but related to what we're saying right now, I'm going to ask Ehsan, and probably you had this question already many times, but I still would like to know this from you as well. We discussed this also with Ali Alizadeh, and he he gave a very diplomatic answer, but last time I saw him interview Radhika Desai, and he was actually more critical. So I was like, okay, interesting. So my question to you is, Ehsan, what do you see as China and Russia's role at the moment? Now we just had the visit of Trump to China, trying to convince China to help vis-a-vis Iran. How do you read that meeting with regards to how China stands towards Iran? And what do you feel is China's role in this whole war between Israel, US, and Iran? Do you feel there's support or not? Or how do you see that as an Iranian? This is not the end of the show. We will touch on topics such as China, Russia, and the future of the Iran war. To see the full show, subscribe to our Substack. YouTube is squeezing the hell out of our channel, so we hope to slowly get away from YouTube. Come to our Substack to see the full show.
No borders, no change, no silence.